Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Football Fandemic, where we are going to be hitting the AFC West in our divisional breakdowns. We've got some news, we've got some guests, and a whole lot more. Stick with us here on the Football Fandemic. All right. Well, we're here today with the regular crew, myself, Brandon, and Josh, but we have Caleb Haupt with us. You may not recognize, but this is our resident or our area or our friend who is a Chiefs fan. And since we're talking about the AFC West today, he is joining us. Welcome, Caleb. It's good to have you with us. We are going to hit some football news here today, and then we're going to get right into that AFC West. I don't know a whole lot going on this time of year. I've been getting in my YouTube feed just tons and tons of like speculation and waiting for training camp. And then I get to see Josh's post all the time for the Football Fandemic, which is nice when he puts up things for the Colts, you know, Anthony Richardson flicking the ball down the field, and we're all hoping that it looks anything like that when they get in pads and real games. But first, what kind of news is going on in the world today? I know J.J. Watt, who has recently retired, now joins, wouldn't you know it, an analyst booth. He's with CBS. So who was CBS before?
Tony Romo.
Is he taking Tony Romo's place? Is Tony Romo gone?
Do not know.
Nobody knows. I can tell you one thing. When Tony Romo first started as an analyst, I was pretty excited about his predictions and the way he called the game. But the longer he goes, the less excited I am every time I hear Tony Romo's on a game, because it's just not as exciting as it used to be. So maybe J.J. Watt will be better. We'll see.
I'm going to throw this in here because I've raved about our analysts so much in the past, and everyone knows my hatred for a certain analyst. And I've been saying because of that, we need a defensive player in the booth. And so I think,
just so everybody knows, he's speaking of Greg Olsen. So you know, Greg Olsen, if you're out there, Brandon still hates you.
Get better. Yeah. And then, but JJ Watt is going to be really, really good. I'm excited just to have a defensive player up in the booth calling things from a defensive perspective. Everything is, oh, well, this receiver ran the wrong route. It's never, oh, you know, this defender made a really good play that screwed this receiver up. So I'm excited to have less bias up there when I'm watching games.
Well, it'll be good to see some defensive calls. Do either of you two Haupt guys have thoughts on J.J. Watt as an analyst?
I mean, like Brandon said, there needs to be a defensive guy. I mean, we've had a long line of offensive guys in any network. You know, Tom Brady, Tony Romo, Peyton Manning, and Eli Manning. I think Drew Brees has gotten into this thing recently also. So there's been all of them quarterbacks also. But there's been guys, even Chris Collinsworth, a wide receiver, but he's been doing it and he's good at it. But there's been guys who have been doing this for a long time, and I think there needs to be defensive perspective on this. And I just want to say again that I don't mind. I don't hate Greg Olsen.
Well, who comes to mind? Who comes to mind when you think of defensive analysts that we have had? I think
Charles
of
Woodson did it for a short time.
Yeah.
Isn't Rodney Harrison?
Yes. Yeah.
On Sunday Night Football. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Sure, there were more. But
ESPN has kind of rotated a few people that just kind of sit on the sideline and talk about the game.
yeah,
Or
that's
like
different.
some halftime show stuff, but it's not live
Those sideline
in-game
reporters.
analysis.
That's where they're getting, you know, someone a little camera time to see if they're any good, and then they're gone. They're gone. Until you're in that booth, you haven't made it. Hey, here's another bit of news for you all. Brandon Comark and Josh Haupt will be in Green Bay, Wisconsin for the owners meeting, of which Brandon is really the only owner, but he's taken his +1, Josh Haupt.
Because I'll be owner for the weekend.
Now, your wife, Brandon, is an owner.
Yes, my wife and I are both owners.
She's not going.
She is not. But we get access to take visitors with us to the meeting. Now, Josh has absolutely zero power, so we can't overturn the organization while he's there. But he gets to be a witness.
Now I I was invited to go to this. Unfortunately, it does not work with my schedule. We would have all gone up there, but doesn't it seem a little wrong that like a Colts fan and a Commanders fan can go into your owners meeting and hear all the inside scoop on what you guys are talking about? Because you get the super inside scoop there as an owner.
Well, I mean, you could also just tune in on the Packers YouTube live stream of the meeting. It's not not super duper private stuff. We keep that for during the season and most of the off season. We don't
so
let the public in for that.
You're not like laying out the playbook, letting everybody see what's going to be run this year.
No, I mean last year it was we gave Matt LaFleur an extension. We're sad Devontae Adams is gone. He'll be back to be a Hall of Fame Green Bay Packer. Hopefully Canton as well. Nothing we didn't know already. Well, except the Matt LaFleur news. But there'll be little nuggets of information in there.
Okay, you brought this up, and I know this isn't part of our news, but I'm just going to throw out this little bit of tidbit analysis. I think if Devontae Adams continues with the quarterback play he has had since going to the Raiders, he will not make the Hall of Fame. I'm going to throw that out there. He was good with Aaron Rodgers, but if he doesn't show that he is good with someone else, I don't think he makes it.
He was great last season. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Matthew.
Well, great. He was good, but was it Hall of Fame good?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know.
Look at that real quick. Of course, like you said, he has. It depends on.
All right, so let's compare this most recent season he had with Green Bay to his first season with the Raiders. Okay?
Well, the most recent season with Green Bay is not a good. Well, okay, go ahead.
Actually, they are comparable. Yeah.
So with the Raiders, he had 1,000 receptions. With the Packers, he had 1,200.
1,000 receptions.
123. Not
120.
1,000.
I was going to say that's a lot of receptions. How many snaps did they play?
Yardage, he was at 1,516 with the Raiders. With the Packers, he was at 1,553. So he had 40 more yards as a Packer and 23 more receptions. His average with the Raiders was 15.2 yards a catch, and with the Packers was 12.6, more dominant by catch. His longest touchdown was 60 yards with the Raiders. With the Packers that season was 59. He had 3 more touchdowns at 14 compared to 11. And then he had 1 rush with the Raiders for -1 yards and 0 rushes with the Packers for 0 yards.
Was this last year that he was in Green Bay? Did they go to the playoffs? Was this an MVP year for Rodgers?
Yeah.
21, yes. That was also Devontae's number 1 year of his career.
Okay,
and he only went back 40 yards receptions.
Okay.
So I would argue he was just as dominant.
For some reason, I don't think of him yet as a Pro Bowl receiver.
I don't either, but I think he'll get there. I don't need Hall of Fame, but
yeah. But I am going to point this out. Everyone always links him with Aaron Rodgers for doing everything, but his second best season as a Packer came with Deshaun Kaiser at quarterback when Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone in Minnesota early in the season. He went for 1,386 yards with Deshaun Kaiser compared to the season before of 885 yards with Aaron Rodgers.
So I know, of course, Brandon is a witness to this because he watched him play. But last year, none of us were teams correspondents to the Raiders, but we have a Chiefs fan here who can actually probably watched him play twice a year, who can put his input in about, what he thinks about the situation, because he watched him play twice a year.
Yeah, I think Devontae Adams, he had a pretty productive season last year. Say that touchdown he had against the Chiefs I like that one. That was pretty good. And
so it seems like everybody here agrees that Devontae Adams has not regressed and will not regress with Jimmy G, and he will continue to flourish with the Raiders. I don't know. We'll see. Jimmy G does not seem even like his good friend Derek Carr to me. So maybe he'll continue to go into the stratosphere and on into the Pro Bowl. But old Matthew Thomas will have to be
He's been to the Pro Bowl.
He's been to the Pro Bowl, right? To the Hall of Fame.
Many times, yes.
Let's see if he goes on to the Pro Bowl next season. Because he didn't last season, right?
He's definitely.
He's also been all pros most of those seasons as well,
Yeah, let me look.
which is a leading indicator.
Well, yeah, Pro Bowl not so much anymore because they don't even play. But the All Pro since 2020 till 2022, Pro Bowl since from 2017 to 2022. So he has a pretty long, I guess, run of All Pros and Pro Bowls.
I'll put it this way. I wouldn't mind having him join the Colts, so I'm not against him.
And then he'll be a Hall of Famer in your eyes.
Yeah,
Well,
once he joins the Colts, that's when he's officially made it in Matthew's eyes. But until then, he hasn't done anything.
I think the Colts have some growing to do before they're going to be like, winning any big things. We'll see. We talked about that last week. But this week, we are talking about the AFC West. And you know what? We are ready to get to that place where we talk about the AFC West. So just to remind everybody who we're talking about this week is the Broncos, the Kansas City Chiefs. I got to get to my correct screen here so I can even roll this stuff. Where is it? I lost it. There we go. Kansas City Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Chargers. Some of these teams I'm more excited about than others, but all of them have some juicy storylines coming up. And we're going to start with the Broncos. Josh, why don't you go ahead and bring up their roster, get it big enough we can see all those names, and talk to us a little bit about what we've got going into beyond Sean Payton's here and Russ Wilson has been junky. And what are they going to be like when they marry, which we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, not the same roster. They've added a lot. But, I mean, besides Sean Payton, they have the same core of offensive guys. You have Javonte Williams coming back from injury, from his ACL tear midway through the season. You have Samaje Perine, who they just signed, who's a pretty good workhorse back from the Bengals last year. And you still have Russell Wilson, which I know he didn't play great last year, but I expect him to make a turnaround. Not a great turnaround, but not like MVP year, but maybe borderline Pro Bowl year with the Broncos with Sean Payton. You still have a pretty good trio of receivers, or maybe even better trio. You got Jerry Jeudy, you got Tim Patrick, who's also come. One of these guys, can't remember who, but Tim Patrick definitely is coming off an ACL tear this year, or some MCL. And one of these guys is also injured. So you get these three guys back, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Jerry Jeudy. And then you have Marquez Callaway and can't remember who, but KJ Hamler as backups, as slot receivers or depth chart. You've got a pretty solid core there. And then you have Albert. I'm just going to say Alberto. That's what they call him, Alberto, and Greg Dulek at your tight end, who are pretty serviceable guys. So this offense is loaded with talent that Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, they know exactly what they're going to do with it, and they just got to figure out if it's going to work. If it's not going to be some sort of Nathaniel Hackett type of thing last year, where the coaching scheme was just terrible.
It's going to be interesting. We already talked about Nathaniel Hackett's now a Jet, and we're going to see if that works with Aaron Rodgers. But do you think it was the coaching last year that was the big problem in Denver?
Yeah, I do. I mean, when you look at it from, I know it was Seattle, and I know it was, a different coaching scheme, different team, whatever. But when you look at, I gotta go down a lot. 1 minute. When you look at the numbers he put up in Seattle, the past decade or so, but more importantly last year, 3,000 yards in 14 games. Let's just say it finished the season 3,500, 3,700 yards, 25 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And then you see this big drop off of more yards, but a very less productive season TD interception ratio wise. You got to relate that to coaching scheme and coaching, strategy or whatever, because I know Pete Carroll's a great coach. They had a great team around them. They had whatever, but you go into a borderline parallel offense where these offenses are probably pretty close to talent wise and to how they run, great running back, great three wide receiver core with the Seattle and the Denver. And then he just completely falls off the face of the earth. You got to look at the coaching scheme as the number one reason.
It's always interesting when you pull up those stats and you see his yards are almost the same. And then I think of what you guys were just doing with Devontae Adams. It's like, just because stats in some areas are similar, the results are nowhere near the same. And so they were pretty bad last year in Denver. And let's look at what we think they're going to be this year. Why don't you go ahead and pull up our schedules? Let's start making some predictions. I guess I'll get out a pen and write these down just in case your
Oh yeah, my computer fails. But
computer fails again.
while I'm doing this, Caleb, you work with the AFC West. I guess. What do you think of the Broncos as we move into the schedule prediction?
I definitely think they're going to be better this year under Sean Payton. Sean Payton has always established himself as one of the best coaches in the NFL.
I was saying that last week. Where
look at the Saints team.
Yep, I was saying that last week too, where he came in and the Saints were like Drew Brees came in at the same time, of course, but they went like 6-10 or something the year before without both of them, and they made the championship at 10-6 or 11-5, whatever the year after, whenever they were first year. So I expect a big turnaround.
Yeah.
From these guys.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
So we got Broncos schedule week 1, Raiders at Broncos. And I will bring back the coin because there's 4 of us.
It looks like week 6 on here. Oh no, I see you've got something over to the side. Week 1. Yes.
I'll bring back the coin just in case we have a tie or 2-2 because we got 4 people now.
Raiders Broncos. This seems like a great game for Caleb to start us off on. Somebody who loves that division, watches that division. Who's going to win? Raiders versus Broncos, week 1.
I'm going to say the Broncos. I think that Sean Payton and Russell Wilson will get it together and they'll pull that game.
So we've got our first. I think this might be the first time we've given the Broncos a win, and anybody they've come up against in previous sessions of this.
We got 2 wins.
2 wins? Okay. We have given them wins before.
Yeah, the worst teams we've played, gone against because we've been gone against. It's pretty good divisions, but it was Texans and Texas and Patriots.
Patriots. Oh, and now Caleb at least is saying he thinks they'll beat the Raiders. What do you two think, Brandon and Josh?
I think it's dependent on what the Raiders quarterback situation looks like. I think we're still a bit uncertain with Jimmy Garoppolo if he's actually cleared to play. If he's not cleared to play, I think Denver probably wins because who's their – we'll talk about their roster here in a second, but I think it's Case Keenum is their backup right now? Or did they cut him?
I don't know. I don't know who it is. Let me look real quick because Brian Hoyer. Or Aiden O'Connell, their rookie. One of those 2 guys.
Yeah, no faith in either of them.
I think Hoyer was a Colt for a while. He was nothing. No good.
He was also a Texan. Yeah,
he's many places.
He's hopped around.
Mostly, I remember him as a Patriot, right?
Yeah.
What I want to do, what we've done in previous weeks to keep it consistent, is I want to assume Jimmy Garoppolo is playing.
Yeah, we're going to assume the best. We're going to be optimistic.
Assuming the best. We did the same with Matthew Stafford.
Injuries, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to say the Raiders on this one, assuming Jimmy G is playing.
I'm going to assume that Jimmy G is playing and Josh McDaniels is coaching and the whole business there. And I'm still going to say the Broncos win this one. I think Sean Payton with Russell Wilson starting off the year, they're going to be more on the same page because of how bad they were last year and how hard he's going to ride them this year. I think they're going to beat the Raiders.
I do too. I think they, like Caleb said, I think they start out hot. And I just feel besides Devontae Adams, maybe Hunter Renfrow, I don't think the Raiders, which we'll talk about in a minute, their offense and their team, but I don't think they have an offense to put up against the defense that is as talented as Denver. And then if Russell Wilson gets things clicking like he did in Seattle, you got, like we were talking about a minute ago, you got a pretty good three wide receiver set at wide receiver that who is going to stop them on defense? Because the Raiders had probably statistically the worst defense out of anybody last year.
So then we come to that. That's a week 1 win we have for the Broncos. But then we come to fight between the Haupt guys here. Haupt boys, who's going to win? Washington Commanders, Denver Broncos. I guess you're not a Broncos fan, Caleb. So this is not really a fight. What am I thinking? You're probably both going to be on the same page on this. Who's going to win this one?
I'll start this off, and then I'll let him go because this is my team. He's more of a Chiefs guy. But this one's tough for me because we're at the same. The Commanders and Broncos are at the same point or same I guess point of training camp or quarterback position wise. We don't know what we got out of Sam Howell. We don't know if Russell Wilson's going to improve. They're both question marks, and we've been saying that with the Broncos for every team we've done so far. But I just think the defense is as much as I said the Broncos have a great receiving core and all this and that. I think the Commanders have a better receiving core, and I'm trying to be as little biased as I can, but I think they have a better receiving core by far, and I think they have a better defense by far. I mean, the defense has been, when it's at its peak, the Commanders defense has been a top 10 unit, especially that D-line, every single year they've played since 2020, and I don't think that stops. And if there's any sort of slight struggle between Russell Wilson, Sean Payton in that offense, the defense is going to take advantage of that really quick. So I think the Commanders win. Yeah, what do you think, Caleb? Oh, wait.
It's a hard one. I think both have good offenses. Both have good defense, but I mean, you got Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins.
So he has something to say about this.
Obviously a plus. That's obviously a plus. It's obviously a plus for their offense, but like you said, the QB question mark is there, and we don't know how they're both going to play, but I'm going to say the Commanders are going to win that one.
Let's go.
I'll say they'll win that one.
For me, when I look at these two teams, I look at the Washington and Broncos. It's a case of, I think, Howell, right? That's the young quarterback. Yeah. I think Howell probably has, at this stage, the more live arm. Just young, more energy. He's going to throw further. It's like when Peyton Manning got to the end, the throws begin to fall off a little bit. And I think Russ might be starting to get there. But Russ, like Peyton Manning, has that knowledge that Howell doesn't. And he has Sean Payton, who has a great knowledge of offense. So it really, offensively, you've got maybe, whether it's the better receivers or not, it's hard to say. What we had last year in Denver did not look like great receivers, but on paper they were supposed to be great receivers. So if you say, okay, we've got great receivers, but you got maybe a little better receivers and a live young arm in Washington, but you got the knowledge and experience, the foresight in Denver. I don't know which of those is going to come out on top, but like you, I think the Washington defense is going to be the balance in this. The Broncos have had great defenses, but they've lost some pieces. Didn't they lose Bradley Chubb this offseason?
Yeah, mid-season last year. They traded
mid-season last year. Now, he never really, was the absolute gangbuster across from Von Miller that everybody thought he would be when he was drafted, but he was good. And of course, they've lost some other pieces. So I think going on just power of defense, I'm probably going to go with Washington on this one as well. But I don't know, man. As far as offenses, it's hard to say which one's going to come out on top, especially early in the season, because that's where I see Howell still getting his wheels, still getting his understanding. He might throw some stuff he won't throw later in the year. So I don't. It's tough for me, but I think I'm going to go with Washington defense on this one. Any words, Brandon, even though there's three of us voted for Washington?
Yeah, I think the part in there, my vote obviously cannot change anything. But I think the part in there we're forgetting to talk about is the pair of safeties that Denver has is the best grouping of safeties in the NFL.
Surtain,
so you have a young quarterback that is not experienced to handle with those kind of safeties. You can have Scary Terry all you want, and he can have the best catch radius in the NFL. But if your quarterback is making bad decisions and he goes and throws 3 interceptions, you're not going to win a game.
What does Broncos pass rush look like right now?
Pass rush right now. Notable names. I'm not going to say them all, but notable names is Zach Allen, who they just signed in free agency from Arizona on the edge. Jonathan Harris on the edge also. They just re-signed him. In the middle is DJ Jones, which is okay. So they really don't have a strong middle core defense on the defensive line. And then Frank Clark as another edge rusher. So serviceable, pretty good guys.
So serviceable.
Here's also the part you need to think about. What's the
offensive line, real quick before you jump in there, Brandon? What's the offensive line for Washington look like?
Washington, not good. I'll tell you that.
So my whole point of this is if they can get pressure on the quarterback, that's where I think he's going to start making bad decisions.
Yeah.
And if they have good cornerbacks, if he's making bad decisions, that will balance. I mean, that will tip things. But will the offensive line be able to hold up enough against that defensive line? That's the question.
The offensive line is always up and down. Like they have players. I mean, they have Charles Leno and either Wiley and Cosme, depends on which one we move to guard this year, on the right, on the tackles. And then inside we have Wiley or Cosme, whichever one we move to guard. And then at center, we just drafted a guy. So, I mean, there's pieces that need to be filled, but it's not like it's the worst offensive line. They can hold their own, basically.
I'm not going to lie to you, though. Those names do not jump off the page at me. If I was not a Washington fan and you said those names, I'd be like, who?
Exactly.
They're not names you hear said a lot.
Yeah.
So,
but
to Brandon's point.
Here's the part we have to remember as well is great secondaries can make your defensive front look better because they provide them with more time. Mm-hmm. And great defensive fronts can make your secondary look better because it provides you with less time. And I think the secondary is good enough to make this defensive front look, oh, wow, I never realized they had a defensive front sort of look. And so I don't want to discount that, but you also got to understand this is early in this young quarterback's career going against a very tough secondary. You know what?
Brandon has convinced me. I want to switch my vote. I want us to go to the tie break because the thing I wasn't thinking too much about is we are so early in the season. And so having that be the second game only, I do see the experience of Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, even though they are still getting to know each other. I see that experience paying off more with them than Howell with, who's your coach, Rivera?
Rivera, yeah.
Okay,
so as we always do, home team is heads, HH, and then tails is away. So home is Broncos, and our heads is Broncos, tails is Commanders.
Oh, wait, I don't know what that means.
That was Broncos.
Heads is Broncos.
Yep.
Hey-oh. Okay, that's who I switched to. I had to think about where I was on that. Okay, I think that's probably a coin flip sort of game now for me. So that worked out.
Or we could have called a tie like we did last week with the Texans and Panthers.
I'm against it.
You were the one for it last week.
Last week, but this week I'm against it. I don't want a bunch of those jumping into my season because, man, I think the Colts had one of those last year, right?
Yeah, against the Texans, week 1.
Hate them. All right, what do we got for game number 3?
We got week 4. We'll start off with Caleb. We got week 4, Broncos at Bears. And we'll start with Caleb.
Wait, week 3.
It's Dolphins. We already did this.
Oh, we already did that. And the Dolphins. So we have the Broncos winning their second game and losing their third game. So that's their first loss. Yeah. 2 wins, 1 loss of the season, 3 games in. What happens game 4 against the Bears? Caleb.
I'm going to go with the Broncos on this one. They've got a much more experienced team. Their quarterback's more experienced. He is not been himself for the past season, but I think with Sean Payton, he'll be able to rise above and they'll be able to beat the Bears.
That's right. Yeah.
So you agree, Josh?
No, I don't actually. I almost did, but when you mentioned the defensive line and like the secondary is going to look better, whatever, and all these things, I was like, in my head, I just pulled a switcheroo like you did with the Commanders, not because you did with the Commanders, but because Justin Fields, when you put him under that pressure, you know what he's going to do. He's going to evade, he's going to run, and he's going to take off. And if he has an open receiver, he may hit it, he may not, but he's still going to run. I think this is a 100-yard rushing game for Justin Fields. or at least 150-yard rushing combo between Fields and Khalil Herbert or whoever the running back is. I think this is a rushing game, and mainly for the quarterbacks in both teams, Russell Wilson and Fields. And I think the Bears actually upset the Broncos in this one. I don't know if I got my invite revoked from Brandon because of that, but I'm just going to put my opinion out there.
You're still going to be there. You might leave a changed man, though.
Okay.
I'm going to go with a vote of no confidence in Chicago. Justin Fields throwing the ball under pressure when the game matters 100% of the time has led to an interception, and the game has been lost 100% of the time. And so you can look at, every game against the Packers when he was on his final drive, interception. Against the Lions, same sort of deal. And so every time I'm watching this film of him, he's under pressure, he's trying to throw the ball, and he's unable to do it. And by the end of the game, the dude's just gassed. Mm-hmm. Most of his rushing production is over by the time the third quarter is done. And so it's really a battle of stamina here. And I don't have confidence in him throwing the ball. So I'm going with Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson can throw the ball, and we've seen him do it very well historically.
And then there was Matthew looking at this game. The Bears were the worst overall team last year by the very last week, barely.
Yeah.
But they made it to the worst team in football. Broncos were also no good. I think I'm going to agree with Brandon on this one only because I do think when Justin Fields takes off and runs, he's going to do well. But I don't know that he can keep that up all game. Enough all game. So I'm going to go with the Broncos on this one.
All right. Week 5, we already did the Jets winning. And then we go back. The first time we'll talk about the Chiefs. So Caleb's right back at it overall at first again. So Chiefs and Broncos in Kansas City. And although it's not mentioned, or we have not mentioned it before, the Broncos have not lost or not won against the Chiefs since 2016. So I don't know if that continues, but we'll find out from Caleb's opinion.
The Broncos, they have a good defense. They proved they can stop Mahomes. He threw 3 interceptions last year against them in one game. But I do think that the Chiefs will pull this one because their defense has proven that it can stand up when it needs to. And the duo of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce is hard to stop. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs on this one.
And then you still have – I'm not putting my vote in for the Chiefs. I mean, I probably will. And then you still have who do you guys just got last year? You have MVS and Tony still in offense. So you got a lot of weapons that – even your running backs, of course, McKinnon and Pacheco. You got a lot of weapons that Mahomes can use, and there's not a way to stop all of them at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs did lose last year to the Broncos, but they also last year to the Colts, and I don't see that repeating. They occasionally just lose a game that you're like, how in the world did they lose that game to that team? I think it's easy for me to say Kansas City's going to beat Broncos here.
Yeah, me too.
I'm in the same boat, but right. I want to go back because we have conflicting things from Matthew and Josh.
What do you mean?
Matthew just said Chiefs lost to the Broncos.
Yeah, they haven't. I guess it's close.
Chiefs lost to the Colts, I meant to say.
Okay.
Yeah, he was talking about throwing the 3 interceptions, and then that made me think, yes, he did poorly against the Colts too. So it may not have been a loss to both, but he sometimes doesn't play great against teams, but I think he will. I don't think it'll be a back-to-back bad-looking game for Mahomes.
Brandon, why don't you start this one because this one is your team?
Yeah, full vote of confidence. Packers are going to win. Full vote.
No reasoning, just you believe it.
Well, I did state my reasoning when the schedule came out. The Packers are going undefeated. So if I let them lose here, They can't be
Let me
undefeated.
look at what you actually said. It'll be a while if I
Guys,
find it.
I want everyone in the listening land, on the live stream, on the podcast, I want you to just remember this undefeated talk from Brandon, because I think this is the year. You know, every year he is high on the Packers, and every year they do well.
I think
And every year we have to kind of eat our words that, yeah, they did better than expected. Maybe one year they didn't do so great. But I think this year Brandon might find himself stubbing his toe a few more times than maybe undefeated.
yeah,
You know, you say that though
I have to live up.
to the ownership. Every year, you say these, Matt, you said every year, they do better than expected, whatever, but also every year they do better than expected. Brennan's always getting his hype increase, wild card win, divisional win, and then it all implodes in the conference championship. And then it's all like, welcome back to earth, Brandon.
Hey, if we want to go with how the national media portrays everything, I think we can just say we got rid of our sore spot. So if you want to think about it like that, I don't, but the national media does view it
Well,
like
the national media would have said your sore spot, but they would have also said the best quarterback to play in like forever.
Yeah.
Well, I know Patrick Mahomes is in that conversation too. So, but before Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers was the man.
I mean, we've talked about on this podcast. I mean, the big question is Jordan Love, and really what Joe Barry can do with this defense. I feel good about Christian Watson and what he was able to accomplish in the second half of the season last year. He really started to get a stride. Romeo Doubs was looking good, and then someone kind of our dark horse that no one's going to talk about, that I'm going to talk about when we get to the NFC North, is Josiah DeGuara has been Jordan Love's number one target, and he's been getting 15 yards. It's kind of been like a Travis Kelce sort of deal. No one's going to cover him. He's not really the kind of guy that's going to turn a bunch of heads all the time, but he's consistent and will get you 15 yards, and they're always going to put their worst guy on him, and Jordan's going to find that matchup every time. So Jordan needs more credit than he gets. I know they're wanting you to temper expectations so they can hype us up later. But I mean, Jordan needs some more love. And so I have full confidence that he'll be able to beat the Broncos based on he almost beat the Chiefs last year.
That's right.
And that's a much better team.
And I'm going to say, much to Brandon's chagrin, I think the Broncos win this one. I know we've got a lot of love for Love. We got all the roster that did great last year, but I just see them having to put some stuff together more than maybe Brandon's expecting as they go into this year. And I think they will win their share of games, and I think they will occasionally lose a game that we even thought they should have won that game. I think this is one of those. Don't ask me why beyond that, but I think the Broncos are going to win this one.
I'm going to put my input in here, and just like the Commanders, the whole QB scenario thing, we don't know. We sort of know what we get out of Love. He played a couple games, kind of like how we don't know what we're going to get out of Russell Wilson either. Is he going to improve? We know what we had in Russell Wilson, but what are we going to get in the future out of 11 or 12-year veteran Russell Wilson with a Hall of Fame caliber coach, offensive-minded coach? I just think, as much as Brandon says I just think the Broncos defense is scarier than the Packers defense, and that's going to play a factor. I think I'm taking the Broncos.
I don't like how you use that wording, Josh. Remember where we're going.
Yeah.
So, Caleb, do you tie it up or do you tip the balance all the way to Broncos?
I'm going to take Green Bay on this one.
Oh,
another coin toss.
I'm going to take Green Bay.
Hey, Caleb, you can replace Josh from now on. You're welcome anytime.
All right. I'm out of here. All right, coin toss time.
Coin toss. So what's we said which one's heads?
Heads is home, tails is away.
So who was home on
would be
that?
Green Bay. Tails
would be Green Bay. Yeah.
Tails is Green Bay. Heads is Broncos. Let's have the coin flip.
There we go.
Green Bay wins it.
Yeah.
Green Bay comes in and pulls through for Brandon and Caleb. Broncos get another loss. And now they're at 4 losses, 3 wins.
That's not bad. I mean,
so far.
Yeah.
7 games. Let's see what happens with game number 8. Who is game
Against
number 8 against?
Chiefs at Broncos. So we'll
Yes.
start with Caleb again. Chiefs at
Broncos
Broncos.
again? That was
back-
quick.
Yeah, 6-8. Funny thing is, this is a Thursday night game, so I mean it's 2.5 weeks. But so they go from Thursday night to Sunday to Thursday night, Sunday afternoon to Sunday afternoon again. So basically 2.5 weeks from separation.
I'm going to take Kansas City again on this one. I think they're going to definitely be in the lead in the AFC West again. I don't see the Broncos beating them at all this season. They could, but I think Mahomes is in his prime, and we don't know what Russell Wilson's going to do.
I agree. They're going to win both of those games. Kansas City Chiefs. Broncos going to lose both of those games, in my opinion.
Yeah, Kansas City sweeps.
Okay, Kansas City sweeps. But I was going to put my input. I don't think it happens. I think there's an upset here, even though I don't have a fair input because it's 3-1. You know, I don't have a say, I guess.
You're not going to change it, but your reasoning is still
reasoning,
appreciated.
Yeah, I just don't think they lose these 3 games in a row, and Sean Payton is not, fired up. You know what I mean?
I agree, but I think it's going to be the Green Bay game, even though we already did the tail.
It might be the Green Bay game, but so we had week 9 was a bye, where week 10 is the Bills winning.
Week 10, we have them losing to the Bills, but then in week 11, up against the Vikings. Let's let Brandon start with this, since the Vikings are in the Green Bay sort of area, and then we'll let Caleb jump in after, and then we'll finish it off, Josh.
I'm curious to know the behind-the-scenes stuff the Vikings are going to do this season. Obviously, you don't want to look bad. They've already announced Kirk Cousins is not their guy after the season.
Yeah. It's the same year as Russell Wilson, too. So I wonder how much, because, age-wise. I wonder how much. Yeah.
Unless Kirk Cousins bets on himself and gets to the end of the season with amazing numbers, and then they give him another hugely guaranteed contract, because we've seen him do this.
I think the only thing that'll keep Kirk Cousins as the Vikings quarterback is a Super Bowl victory or an MVP season.
You don't think if they got to the championship game, they'd be like, we're going to go one more year with him?
No, I do not.
I think they do. I think if anything past the divisional, a championship, Super Bowl, or top 3 MVP voting or offensive player of the year, I think they go with a franchise tag. I mean, he's used to a franchise tag. I mean, we did it 2 years in a row for him, or Washington did. So
will that be a pay cut for him?
I don't know.
Franchise tag from what he got, like that guaranteed
It might
contract?
be.
I mean, he can also opt to not sign the franchise tag and just not
sit
play.
out. Yeah.
He's not going to do that.
Yeah. That's not Kirk Cousins.
But I don't know. I'm not super high on the Vikings this season. I mean, of course, Justin Jefferson is going to be phenomenal. Yeah, I do not want to discount Justin Jefferson. I'm not super sold on their defense right now.
They got rid of their running back, right? Dalvin
Cook is gone, which I think is okay. Alexander Madison is still a phenomenal running back.
Yes, he is.
And so they're not. It's kind of like getting a 99% or a 95% on a test. It's still an A. It's still a great grade. You'd rather have 99%, but you're okay with 95.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same with Tony Pollard. I'm also high on Tony Pollard because, Zeke was good for his time he served, but Tony Pollard was always the guy that came in and made the big moves the past couple seasons. And so Alexander Madison's going to do good. I don't know about Jordan Addison yet. He's their receiver they just picked up. Yeah. He came out and said, I'm only here to get paid, about 40 seconds after he got drafted, not understanding that you don't get paid until after your first 4 or 5 years of playing. So,
well, from college, it feels like paid, right?
Yeah, it's still a significant increase to what he's had before, but I think Denver pulls this one out.
I'm going to say that I said Caleb was second. Go, Caleb. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just started to jump right on.
I'm going to go the Broncos. The Vikings, after they lost to the Giants, they just looking like they're in shambles. Their quarterback is not. He's not a top tier quarterback. He's had productive seasons, but he's not been a star quarterback. Russell Wilson, however, has been. And the defense for the Vikings is questionable, but we know the Broncos have a good defense. And I think Sean Payton will coach well in this game, and I think the Broncos will pull this game out.
There's also Sean Payton has a very much a hatred towards Minnesota
Yes, he does.
after the Minneapolis Miracle.
Yeah.
I was thinking Bountygate.
Yeah, the Minneapolis Miracle, which I believe that was the play that led to referees being able to review plays.
OPI. No, that was the other. No, that was the.
That
other
was
one.
another Minnesota thing.
That was the Saints and Rams when he just completely knocked him out on a diving
Oh,
catch.
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Minnesota Miracle was Case Keenum, and it was all legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Sean Payton is not forgotten. That was the playoffs.
Yeah. He's lost too many times in the playoffs to the Vikings. Let me look at it. I know he lost Minneapolis Miracle, and then they lost to the Saints in the championship the year after or something like that. But then they lost again to the Vikings in the divisional or something like that. And they lost twice to the Vikings basically within a 3-year period.
The whole purpose of the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs is just to beat like the number 1 or number 2 seed and then lose the next one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to jump in here next, and I'm going to say Broncos are going to win this one because I think they've got to show some improvement this year with Sean Payton, and I don't think they're going to get a whole bunch of wins, but I think this is one of those games that they are going to win that's going to get his win column high enough that they're like, okay, things have progressed some. And so I think the Broncos beat the Vikings here.
I was going to say the same thing. So it was a 4-0 Bronco. So we got 12-13, 12 loss to the Browns, 13 win to the Texans.
And that brings us to week 14.
You know what's funny though is like every team we've done, like all these teams we've done in the past, we'd be like, oh, we don't know the quarterback situation, but right now we have them at 6 and 7, and we keep hyping up their quarterback situation. Like Russell Wilson's going to improve and all that stuff.
I mean, that is an improvement from last season.
That is true. Yeah, a win. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to start with week 14. It is the Broncos at the Chargers, and I'm going to lump this in with week 17, which is the Chargers at the Broncos. I think they split, and I think it's the home team that wins each time. So they lose week 14, they win week 17.
I was thinking the same. We've done that before.
I think everybody on here is kind of shaking their head, so why don't we just go ahead and plug those two in?
Caleb, you agree? I saw you shake your head. You agree with that?
Yeah. Yes, I agree. The Chargers are going to do a choke job. And the
exactly. Yeah. Right whenever they want to get to the playoffs, 9-8 or 9-6, and they lose the last 2 games. It's going to happen. He's right. It's going to happen. Week 15, Lions. While we're on the conversation, Caleb, you can start this one.
I'm going to take the Lions. I think the Lions are going to do a phenomenal job this season. They did a really good job last season. They've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got a great running back in Montgomery. It Jamal? Yeah,
Montgomery and they got Jamal Williams went to the Saints. I know who you're talking about. It's the guy they drafted. Everybody said got drafted high. I know who you're talking about. They got a duo basically, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And do they still have DeAndre Swift?
No, he got traded to Philly.
Okay.
Philly.
I see.
Yeah.
Because they drafted what's his name? I can't think of it, but they drafted the running back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Lions are going to be way better than the Broncos, and I think I know Brandon is not going to. Actually, Brandon might like this because he's always been a supporter of the Lions. I think they win the division, and I think they win this game.
Well, I don't know if he's going to be for winning the division, but yeah,
he's always been a supporter of the Lions.
I did say in a previous podcast, I think Lions are the division winner, but Packers are second.
So I don't understand how that works out with the Packers being undefeated.
The Lions are also undefeated.
Oh, okay.
2 undefeated when they play each other twice.
They just tie. They tie.
Yeah,
and they still say it. Yeah.
15 and
So
15-0 and 2.
and 2.
Oh, that's great. I also want to throw my vote in for the Lions because I think Dan Campbell's been building it right, and I think you're seeing improvement, and I think that's going to continue. And yeah, Sean Payton coming in is a big help, but I think the Lions are just a gritty team, a tough team, and I think they're going to be too tough for the Broncos.
So we got the Lions week 15, Broncos 16, Broncos 17.
So we had the Broncos winning in 16 against the Patriots already, and then we had the Broncos winning in 17 just a moment ago. We talked about them beating the Chargers. So that brings us to the last game of the season where they play the Oakland Raiders for the second time.
I'm gonna start with this one.
I just want to, before you start, I just want to say that in case we want it, brings into any consideration, the Broncos won last time. If you want to split, like if you think of a split.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about this in a logical perspective. Under the leadership of Derek Carr, who, in my opinion, looked like a Raider, and like he operated a Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
This was always the week where it's like, well, we need like 6 things to happen for them to make the playoffs, and then every time that happened, and usually it knocked the Colts out of the playoffs. I'm sure Matthew remembers that very vividly.
Yeah.
Every season, it just happened every time. Last season was so. I think it was against the Chargers.
Last season, the Colts didn't have a chance.
So, yeah, doesn't have a chance. But the Steelers tied or won against the Ravens, and whoever won this Week 18 Sunday night game was the one that goes to get the 7th seed or whatever. I remember that game because it was Sunday night.
And then it went into overtime.
It went into overtime. It was like a last, they almost tied or whatever. I remember that game because my friends are like, every year I do Sunday night football. My friends just come over. We'll have, a food correspondent to the home team. So if it was the Cowboys, we'll have Tex-Mex or, whatever. If it was Green Bay, we'd have cheese curds or whatever. And I remember I had COVID during this time, and my friends were so upset after the game. They're like, dude, you could have just stayed 5 feet away and we could have watched the game.
Yeah. But my vote with Jimmy Garoppolo playing, assuming, of course, is I think they're in a good position for the playoffs. Jimmy's always positioned himself well.
Yeah.
And he's back in the system where, another national media thing I don't necessarily agree with, where quarterback wins are a stat. When Jimmy Garoppolo was in the system, he went undefeated. Won 7 straight games. And so I think he's going to be in a good position for the playoffs, and I think the Raiders are kind of a sleeper team.
Oh, a sleeper? We have him at 1-6.
Real sleepy.
That could change.
Real sleepy.
It'll go to 2-6, and then it'll go to 11-6. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, before you two get to give your input, I'm going to throw the contrarian view out there, and that is this. I think by this time of the season, Jimmy Garoppolo's already hurt and on IR because that's every year.
That's a possibility.
And
that's happened.
Who's their other guy?
Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell. Depends on.
Right. I don't have faith in them at all.
No confidence.
I think Sean Payton and them beat them in the last week because Jimmy Garoppolo is not there.
I'm actually going to go with Brandon on this one. So either Caleb's going to be the one that brings it home for the Raiders, or he's going to have to, help me bring out the coin toss. But I think, Brandon said sleeper team. I don't think they're sleeping because they're really sleepy right now. They're not a sleeper playoff team, but they're like sleeper.
They're what we call a coma team.
Yeah, right now 1-6. But I think they split the series with the Broncos, and I just it's always a close battle between these two, no matter who quarterback is. But I just think if Jim, as optimistic as we can be, I just think Jimmy Garoppolo is, going to make that push when he wins. So Caleb is going to be our either deciding factor or our coin toss man, or the one that.
I think the Broncos will get this one. I don't see the Raiders winning. I think the Raiders, Jimmy Garoppolo will be hurt at this point in time. And
all right. So heads is Vegas.
Tails is Denver.
Oh,
Vegas. All right.
Boy, both coin flips went against me today in these coin flip scenarios.
So we have the Broncos at 7-10, which improvement from last year, and I can also see them at 8 and 9. I can see one of these games going either way. You know, this one probably more so, but I can see them at 7 and 10, 8 and 9, no more than 9 wins unless they really surprise me. But 7 and 10 and 8 and 9 is right where I had them, honestly. And if where did I put it? Oh yeah. So Caleb, if you don't know who Adam Rank is, he's a guy. He's a quote unquote NFL analyst.
And somehow has more credibility.
Somehow has more a job, you know, over me in this spot, but or any of us for that matter. But he predicted basically every year he predicts these schedules like we're doing right now. And last year he predicted the Bears to go like 11 and 5 or something. This year he predicted them to go like 13 and 4 or something like that. So he's a Bears fan. So basically he's biased,
Okay.
and these schedule predictions are very, you know, blasphemy. But he predicted the Broncos to go 9 and 8. So he's not far off in this scenario in our world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we will see. 7 and 10. 7 and 10. That could be an okay number. I think 6 or 7 wins sounds about right.
Yeah.
Let's go on to somebody who's probably going to win more than 6 or 7. Kansas City Chiefs. And this is going to be where Caleb gets to really give us some insight from what he knows. Not that we all don't know who Kansas City is. Not that we all aren't fully aware of Kansas City's roster and their goodness. But let's jump into them.
Yeah.
First, talk about their roster.
Let's talk about their roster, their additions, you know, what you like, what you think can be improved, et cetera, et cetera. Just you go down the.
Running backs. There's talk of Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting cut.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking at that earlier today. He's been injury prone his whole career. He's not been as good as he was supposed to be. But Jerick McKinnon is obviously a great running back. Isaiah Pacheco is.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them proved themselves throughout the season.
You got 4 good quarterbacks on that roster. Who do you think's going to play this year?
Patrick Mahomes.
You sure it's not going to be Chris Oladokin?
Gun.
Nah.
Okay.
All right, next to wide receivers.
I think Darius Stoney, there was talk of him being the number 1. I think, he'll definitely be the number 1. He's got the most potential, but then they just drafted Rashee Rice, and I think he'll do well. They'll fit him in the system somewhere.
Yeah, you got a stacked receiver core here now that I'm looking at. I mean, last couple years, after Tyreek Hill left, all the talk was Travis Kelce, but you got Richie James, who just signed from the Giants, who had a breakout year. Sky Moore, who's probably bound to have one soon. One of these two guys is all right. I can't remember which one. John Ross was the Bengals guy. He's fast, but Justin Ross is all right, I believe. And then you got these 3 guys down here who are the top 2 guys are 1 and 2, number 1 wide receiver 1 and 2, and then Justin Watson's probably that slot receiver, that 6th guy that comes in whenever these guys are tired.
Mm-hmm. And he definitely proved himself. I mean, that pass Mahomes threw in game 2, was it, against the Chargers? He ran right down the field and caught the pass for the touchdown. So he's definitely proved himself. On many times they needed a first down, he was there to get them to a new set of downs. So, and then tight ends, Noah Gray he was pretty good. Jody Fortson, he did well, and we all know what Travis Kelce will do.
Just so you know, I've drafted Travis Kelce first, I think, overall for my team the last 2 years, and he's been amazing. Now, I've never won the fantasy football, so I'm doing it wrong evidently, but it is really great having him when everybody at the top gets taken and you have no great running back and some of the best wide receivers are gone. You look and you say, this tight end is going to get me wide receiver numbers right here.
Mm-hmm.
So the offensive line is basically stay the same for this team, maybe some minor additions, but more importantly, what do you think of – I don't know which one of these guys is going to replace him, but Orlando Brown leaving and Donovan Smith or Jawan Taylor is going to take that spot. What do you think is going to happen for these 2 guys? Do you think it's going to be an improvement or just like a worse position field, I guess?
I think it's going to be around the same. Jawan Taylor was really good for Jacksonville. That was a good sign. I don't like the fact that Orlando Brown went to the Bengals, but Jawan Taylor is a good replacement.
So you got Jawan Taylor, probably Donovan Smith on the other side. These two guys are main tackles. And then you got Creed Humphrey, Thuney, and Alec Reddy at guards. So pretty good solid offensive line that you probably want anywhere. Defensive line wise, what do you think what sticks out to you here?
Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Chris Jones is definitely their key on there. And then George Karlaftis, definitely really good.
Yeah.
He proved himself. And then is it Carlos Dunlap? Is he there?
No, he's not. I think he's a free agent still, but
free agent.
I know. So they signed someone. I just can't remember. Might have been a linebacker that's going to play edge, but no, they didn't. I don't know. I don't know who I'm thinking of. But what do you think of linebacker wise?
Oh yeah, Willie Gay. I love Willie Gay. And then they just signed a few months back. They signed Drew Tranquil from Los Angeles. Yeah, he's going to be a really good addition.
And then Nick Bolton on the other side.
Obviously, Nick Bolton is amazing. Proved himself in the Super Bowl. So.
Oh yeah. Surprised if he didn't. Wasn't there one that was called back by a penalty or whatever that he got a touchdown on? If that might have been him or somebody else. But if he didn't get called back for something like that, that probably would have won him MVP, Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, I think he should have won it. Yeah. Regardless, I think because he just kept them in that game. Their defense kept them in that game. Yeah. I think he should have won it.
He's definitely there. Besides Chris Jones, of course, he's definitely their leader. And then secondary wise, you're looking at a nice secondary with Mike Edwards, McDuffie, Snead, and Reed as your main four guys, and then Jalen Watson, of course.
This is Jerry Snead. He's a great cornerback. Trent McDuffie really did well. At the end of the season, he started playing well, and then
you got Lamar Jackson, who transferred from quarterback.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I think the Kansas City Chiefs have a nice, well-rounded team, and we're going to expect a lot from them. We're going to jump right into them. We've already spent like an hour mostly talking about Denver. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. So we're just going to go through a quick rundown. Barely an explanation, but so far we've already gone through it helps a lot because we've already gone through the Chiefs' schedule halfway through. They're already 8-0. So before we go through them quickly, Caleb, because I've already talked to Matthew about it. Brendan doesn't know, but you're from kind of where Matthew was from, wherever he was born. But you're kind of from Southeast Illinois. How did you become a Chiefs fan when you got the Bengals to the east, somewhat the Titans to the south, and then you got the Colts like an hour northwest?
Hold on now, Southeast Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay, you said Illinois. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Where were you born, Caleb?
I was born in Richmond, but I'm from Connersville, Indiana.
Okay, I was born in Greensburg, Indiana. Down there, southeast, right over by Cincinnati. So a little bit south of you. So.
So how did you become a Chiefs fan when all these other teams? I mean, they're all kind of bad besides the Bengals. But how did you become a Chiefs fan whenever all these other teams are surrounding you?
I just got into them when Mahomes started playing for him, and I just started following them. I liked what they were doing there. I liked Andy Reid.
Yeah, Andy Reid. We all love Andy Reid. We don't like Mahomes that much, but we all love Andy Reid.
Former Packers coach.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you totally missed all the Peyton Manning years and all the good stuff that came before. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's sad. That's sad that you had to miss that living in Indiana. That was like some of the best times.
Yeah, I do love the Colts though. Yeah. I still do love them. I'm still a Colts fan.
So you weren't upset. Let's just say that you weren't upset last year when the Colts upset the Chiefs on that last minute touchdown. Let's just say that.
I probably still wasn't happy.
Not really. I wasn't worried at at all.
They had so many wins by that point, it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
So let's just start out.
I would like to start this one.
All right. Before you say that, we try to show. I mean, we got to the Colts. We already did the Colts, which is Matthew's team, but we haven't got to the Commanders, which is mine, and then the Packers we haven't got to either, which is Brandon's team. But we try to show as little bias as we can, so we're not trying to predict them to go 17-0. So try to show as little bias as you can with this.
Okay.
So Matthew, Brandon, you can start.
I'm going to start week 1. I think they lose the opening game of the season, and I know this might be controversial, but Dan Campbell's going to come out and make a statement week 1. Very first game, opening up our season. I'm going with Lions on this one. And it's going to be a tough game. It's not going to be a cakewalk, but it's going to be a good one.
All right, Caleb, you can go next.
This is the one that when I was looking at their schedule, this is the one I was like, oh man, this is going to be a tough one. They've got a lot of weapons on the Lions, and they've got a really good what's it called, organization there. They've been building for a while. Dan Campbell's done a really good job. I'm going to agree, and I'm going to say the Lions win.
Ooh, I was going to say the same thing, and I thought it'd come down to a coin toss because Matthew was going to vote for the Chiefs, but I think we were all, 3 of us at least, are in agreement. So the Lions start out hot, bite the kneecaps, and the Chiefs have a Super Bowl hangover.
I think I'm going to agree with you all. I think we're going to make this unanimous, and I think it, like everyone said, it's not going to be an easy game.
And it's going to be
it's going to be that wake up call. It's going to be that, like, you know how the Kansas City Chiefs occasionally will start off not looking great, and then all of a sudden it's like everybody's saying they're done, they're over it, and then all of a sudden they're somehow like number 1 in the AFC. So I think we're going to get that again.
If you don't know, Caleb, we've been doing this podcast mainly the 3 of us since like 2020, late 2020, 21 season, and we were at like week 7 or so, week 8, whenever the Chiefs were like 3-5 in 2020, and we were like, are they going to come back? And we don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. And we thought the Raiders or the Chargers would, and they went to the Super Championship game. So we never know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we have week number 2, them already winning against the Jaguars. We've discussed that one. Week 3 against the Bears. I'm guessing everyone's going to go with Kansas City on this one. So we're not even going to spend a ton of time talking there. 4, we already have them winning against the Jets. 5, we have them and the Vikings.
I think they beat the Vikings.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think we don't know the Vikings have. I mean, they have a good offense, but we don't know their defense. 6 is a win also.
Yeah.
We already went through that.
I could see them splitting with.
I could too, and I don't know if it's going to be at home or like week 18 and week 7. I don't know if they're going to be both home or, you know what I mean. They're going to be both away. So, I think
week 7 they win.
I think they're going to be away games, and I think they split the away games, and they don't go on this long run of wins right here. I think the Chargers win this one.
I'm going to give my reasoning for the other way because their other game is the last week of the season. I think Kansas City already has a playoff spot wrapped up.
Yeah.
And the Chargers need one. I think Chargers win 18 and lose week 7.
Okay, I can do that.
All right. Yeah.
Matthew,
So
agreeing?
we're putting them for a loss. Well, it's 3 already.
I guess so.
I probably don't have a strong opinion on which one goes where. But
win, bye.
Okay, so let's talk about these for podcast people. They can't see. So we've got them winning against the Broncos in week 8. We got them winning against the Dolphins in week 9.
I think this is a closer game than people think, though. This one,
Germany.
week 9.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we got a bye week 10. And then we have them coming up against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Super Bowl rematch.
Super Bowl rematch.
Oh, boy. Oh, that Eagles defense is looking dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
They got DeAndre Carter. That's DeAndre?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's I know I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about. The defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Carter. Yeah.
Yeah, Jalen. That's the one. I got somebody else mixed up, but Jalen Carter they just got him in the draft. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They traded up with the Bears for him, or switch picks, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they got DeAndre Swift at running back, which is going to help. And then Jalen Hurts is always Jalen Hurts. What going to do what Jalen Hurts is going to do. You got AJ Brown, AJ Brown, and then Devontae Smith. Both that's probably top 2 duo in the NFL, wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a fight, but I think the Eagles will win.
I was going to say the same thing.
I also think so.
I was going to say that, but I was going to give a bit more reasoning. I mean, you have probably a top 3 defense league. It's probably top 3 at every position group in the league. You got, which we'll get into more in depth in the NFC East in 2 weeks, but you got also a star-studded defensive line. You got a young linebacker core, and you got stars on the secondary, and then you got these 2, like Caleb just talked about, these 2 wide receivers that you got. You still got, like you said, DeAndre Swift, and then you got Rashad Penny, who you just signed, and then you still have Jalen Hurts. But I think this is a win for this was a win. They both coming off a bye, Super Bowl rematch. This is a win for the Eagles, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to also say the Eagles, but I will say this. I expect the Eagles defense to have to carry them a little more than their offense this year, because I think with Shane Steichen leaving, you're going to see one component of that offense that's not maybe as strong as it was last year. Maybe whoever comes in behind him was really a student of his and carries on, but I do think Shane Steichen made a difference once he started becoming the quarterback's coach and the offensive coordinator there. And you saw Jalen Hurts like really take off. So unless they find a way to continue that, I think you're going to see not necessarily a fall off, because I think Jalen Hurts learned how to do stuff, but I think you're not going to necessarily have that same creative play calling. So
Week 12, Raiders at Chiefs at Raiders. Sorry, Chiefs. Yeah, I just don't think the Raiders have enough in them.
Yep, about 13.
I'm going to start with this one.
What does Caleb think about the Week 12 game first? I mean, it's probably a win, but do you have any further insight on the game?
It's a win.
Okay, simple enough.
It's a win.
It's simple enough. Full confidence.
They're gonna, yeah.
So I'm going to start with Week 13. The matchup everyone's been wanting the past couple of years that we never got was Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, and the teams have played. So the first time Patrick Mahomes was out, and they've always been close games too. I do want to. They've all been 1-score games. Either team could have won it. Patrick Mahomes was out the first game. Matt Castle came in and threw for like 350 plus yards and a few touchdowns. Looked real good. Next one, Aaron Rodgers had COVID toe, as the story goes. Jordan Love came in and played exceptionally well. Also a 1-score game. And we're getting Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes, presuming both are healthy at this point in the season. Again, I like the Packers in this one, because to go 17-0, you got to win all your games. So
yeah,
I'm going to go with the Packers. I think they have some creative defensive things to kind of stop Patrick Mahomes. They always get really good against really good teams with their defense, and they get really bad with their defense against really bad teams. And that's where our shortfalls come. But our defense is going to kind of be the saving grace. And I don't think either team gets more than 3 touchdowns.
I hate to always sound like this because I'm not against the Packers. But I think you know where I'm going with this. I think the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Packers here. I think Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur are going to be fine together, but I just don't think they're putting everything together this season. I got the Kansas City Chiefs.
I do too. I don't think that Jordan Love is ready yet. If I were to give a quarterback coach comparison right now for Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, it's not Mahomes and Reed, but I think it's more so a like 2003 to 2007 Matt Hasselbeck, Mike Holmgren, where they're just, they win enough to make the playoffs. They maybe make a Super Bowl, but they're not a top team. You know what I mean? There's always questions around them. You know what I mean? But I think the Chiefs win this, and I think it's a bigger win than it was closer to last time they played with Jordan Love was playing. So Caleb is either going to have the Chiefs winning or he's going to go back to the coin toss for us.
I'm gonna have the Chiefs winning on this one. I think that offense has molded together over the years, and I think Green Bay's got a. Obviously, he's a younger quarterback and played as much as Mahomes, and yeah, I think Love and LaFleur will work well together, but I don't think it's going to be like a super good team. It'll be a good team, but I don't think it's going to be a great team.
All right, so Brandon may look back and say, guys, I told you so if they do indeed beat them. But right now we have the Kansas City Chiefs winning that one. We also have Kansas City beating a tough one against Buffalo. We already talked about that when we talked about Buffalo. I think there's a split thing going on there. They're going to win that one. We have Kansas City beating New England in Week 15, but that brings us back to the Raiders in Week 16.
Monday Night Football, I think Kansas City wins over Vegas.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the one where we were like looking at week 7 and week 18, where we're like, maybe they rest their starters.
Before we get there, Kansas City beats the Bengals, which is a big game, but we already said that when we talked about the Bengals. Kansas City beats Bengals in 17. Then 18, what Josh was talking about, the split with the Chargers, we said Kansas City would win that.
Wait a second, though. We might want to contradict and go back on that, because if you look at these standings, I was looking at that just now, and I put the win in. If the Chiefs win this game because they beat the Bengals, they get the 1 seed. So I think in the realistic sense, if this is as real as it gets, because our predictions are 100% accurate, we're fortune tellers. We're going to go to the Super Bowl. We're going to get all these millions of dollars because we picked the right score. The Chiefs are going to have to play their starters to win, get that number 1 seed and get the bye. And I think that this is what it comes down to right here, week 18. So we may want to go back on that split real quick.
I still think they split. That is still my official vote.
And the Chargers could play the spoiler right at the end to keep him from getting that number 1 seed.
Or what we could do is we could also hold this game on, I guess, hostage, I guess you can say if you want, or you hold it, and we can do the Chargers and see if that puts them in a playoff spot at all before, and then we can decide this game in week 18 for the Chargers.
No, I think I'm going to go with Kansas City winning this one.
Mm-hmm.
Winning this one, but losing earlier in the season? Still splitting? Or sweeping, Matthew?
We had them winning earlier? I thought we had them losing.
We had the Chiefs winning. The Chargers losing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I wrote down that the Chargers won that one, so I was wrong.
Oh.
I thought
we
that's
initially
how we
were going
landed.
to split as Kansas City won this one and they lost week 18.
Yeah, let's do that. I think the
What?
Chargers play the spoiler. So they win week 7, lose week 18.
Okay.
That gives
Wait,
them
sorry.
what, 3 losses.
Wait, what? So the Chargers lose we lose week 7, or the Chiefs lose week 7.
The Chiefs win week 7. The
then
Chargers win week 18.
All right. I can go on a board with that, and then that would put them at 14-3. And so I'm guessing we're all on board with that, but Caleb would probably still want to put his input because he probably disagrees because he wants that number 1 seed.
Yeah. I think it could split, but based on the last year, I think we definitely could sweep the Chargers. I think that's also the point in time where the Chargers could choke.
Yeah, we just talked about that. Yeah. I don't know. I can see it going either way, just like you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
Chargers play spoiler, or they play for the number 1 seed, or nothing happens like we predicted it, and we're not fortune tellers. And maybe they win this game, and they already have the number 1 seed, and they rest their starters. So it can all go every different way, but I just think, I think they split, and I think it's home teams win each time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've put down against Caleb's great insight that the Chargers may spoil things in week 18, putting the Kansas City Chiefs at 14-3 and maybe losing the number 1 seed. Oh, Crazy. Hey, let's jump right to the Raiders and then hit the Chargers
All right,
because
Raiders.
we're gonna make this a 7-hour podcast otherwise.
Yeah, really quick, we've already touched on the Raiders roster quite a bit.
Yeah.
We talked about quarterbacks, we talked about receivers, we talked about tight ends. Let's just hit their defense really quick, Josh,
All right.
and move on to their schedule.
So defensive line, I mean, they still, if Chandler Jones can be any more productive than he was last year, let me go find his last year's stats real quick. Any more productive than this, if he can get back to 2021 Arizona or even these years right here, instead of 4.5 sacks, I mean, 3 forced fumble recovery, is really good. But if you can get back to this year or even this year, 28 TFLs, 17 sacks, or even 10.5 or 12, you got a very, very dangerous duo in Max Crosby and Chandler Jones on both sides. And then you got, I can't remember when he was drafted. Let me see. Byron Young, who's their 3rd-round pick, he's probably going to be defensive tackle number 2. So he'll probably be playing with one of these guys. I'm not sure which one because I don't have any like opinions on the Raiders defensive tackles because I didn't really watch them that much last year, but I just know they were really bad the whole defense was really bad last year, like bottom 5 in the league. So if anything's going to carry this defense, it's going to be Chandler Jones and Max Crosby mostly. Divine Diablo was pretty good last year. Other than that, their linebacker core is just average, like just completely average. Guys you don't even know the name of that might make a couple plays, but whatnot. But secondary is also the same way. You know Isaiah Palomau, Trevor Moehrig, Nate Hobbs. Those guys are good. And then you got Brandon Facuson. Those guys are, Facuson's all right. Hobbs is pretty good. And then these 2 safeties are pretty good. But otherwise, they're just people that you don't really know the name of and that they're going to need to improve to make a better defense to keep up with this defensive line if the edge rushers can get to the quarterback.
Okay. So let's jump to the games and looking at what we think. Now, again, a lot of these are going to be pre-populated from things we've done before. So week 1, they already have lost to the Broncos. Week 2, they already have lost to the Buffalo Bills. Week 3, they've already lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But week 4 against the Chargers, what do we have? I say it's going to be a loss.
I was thinking a win because I don't think they go these minutes, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo. Because we're optimistic. We're going to see he's playing. He's not going to, get cut because of his physical thing or whatever. But I don't think they go this many wins in a row with Jimmy Garoppolo, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow.
How many losses?
Sorry, yeah, losses. That'd be amazing if they got 3-0. But I just don't think they go that far down. And then let's just say they lose this one because I think it's going to happen. These 6 games, I don't think they go 0-6. I think they win one of these games down the stretch, and it's going to. I think it's more so likely a divisional.
They split with the Chargers, for sure. I think they win this first one, they lose their second one.
I think that's our common theme. They split.
I mean, it's very common in the NFL.
It is, yeah, it is. So Matthew says loss. We both say win. Caleb, what do you think?
I'm gonna say I think they're gonna split, but I'm thinking who's gonna win this one. I think the Chargers will win this one.
All right, back to the old trusty coin that never fails.
Heads is Chargers.
Head is Chargers, and tails is Raiders. Yeah.
All right, Raiders will win.
I have not won a coin flip today.
I don't think, Matt, you've won a coin flip at all today.
I've won all of them. All right, week 5, I'm going to talk about this one. It's going to come down to one thing for the winner of this game. It's going to be who Joe Barry decides to put on Devontae Adams. And it's going to look like exactly what happened when we played the Vikings. And we have 2 different film scores from that. We have the one where we never covered Justin Jefferson, and he got 10 billion yards and 10 billion touchdowns, and we just got destroyed. And then we have the other one where he had 1 catch for 4 yards because we decided, the defense is going to kind of game plan for this, and Joe Barry is going to go with the defensive plan. Devontae and Jair Alexander are also old training buddies. They used to go every day at Packers camp, every day at training against each other, and kind of iron sharpen iron sort of deal. And it was pretty evenly matched. It's the reason both of them are the levels that they are now. I think the Packers win, obviously, but it's going to be a close game, and it's going to be dependent on that decision. Is how are you going to cover up Devontae Adams?
I'm actually going to agree with this. Packers win, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout like most people think it. Raiders are bad. Packers are going to, be on the rise, whatever. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a close game. And the one reason is I don't care who's covering Devontae Adams.
I do.
I know you do. But Devontae Adams is going to have some sort of mindset that, the Packers did me wrong. I want it out of there. I mean, they didn't do him wrong, but I want it out of there, and I'm going to get my revenge, and he's going to play the game of his life. And it's going to come down to who has the ball last. But I do think the Packers win. They have the ball last. They get the game-winning field goal or something like that. I think the Packers win.
I'm also going to go with the Packers winning here. And I think, I obviously said that they would lose to the Chargers in week 4. I think by this week, and especially by next week in week 7, we're already going to be hearing about fire Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
That's
so we already decided the winner of this one, Caleb. But do you have any contradictions to this, or maybe you thought something else?
No, not really. I think
all right.
That's accurate.
Week 6, we already had them losing to the New England Patriots.
Yep.
Week 7, they come to face the Bears. This is where I think people
the
really
Bears
get angry.
win.
I was going to say the same thing.
I think this is where people are going to be angry if he doesn't. There's going to be I think they're already going to be angry, but I think this is he has to win this game.
They don't. I don't think they do. I think
this is the game he gets fired in. Week 7, losing to Chicago.
Right.
So we all agree. We all got Bears. I know Caleb said Bears. Matt, what'd you say?
I said Bears.
All right, week 8.
Lions.
And
I say Lions.
I say Lions.
By now, we could already be looking at a new coach, or at least by week 9 when they face the Giants.
It could be that no, he's not there anymore. I was going to say it could be that special teams guy that they almost hired last time, but he's on the Packers. He's on the Packers now.
Nope. We've offered him a larger contract too, so you can back off of him. He's with us.
All right, so that brings us to week 9 against the Giants.
What were you going to say, Caleb?
No. Lions. I was going to say Lions.
Lions. So we're all four against Lions. What do you think about the Giants Raiders?
I think Raiders win this one.
I think the Giants are going to win this one. I think Brian Dable will coach a good game, and Daniel Jones will play good. I think the Giants will come out with this one.
Let me confirm what I'm thinking in my head.
I'm going to agree with Caleb, mainly for the reason is because I just think they have a better defense. We know what the Giants have on defense. They have a better defensive line, pretty good secondary. They've just revamped their offensive line, or not really revamped, but they added to it. They have Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal on the tackle sides. They have okay guards. I think this game depends on two things. Technically, the Giants' season depends on if Saquon Barkley's actually going to play his franchise tag or he's going to sit out. But we're optimistic in this whole scenario. We're going to be optimistic to continue this scenario. I think let's just say he plays. He plays his franchise tag. He signs a contract, whatever. But B, how does Daniel Jones? Is Daniel Jones going to be the same Daniel Jones as last year, or he's going to improve, or he's going to decline? And I think he at least stays the same. And I think I think the Giants pull this one out. I think the Giants are better than the Raiders on this one.
Now, I'm going to put in this one thing here before Matthew says something. The past couple seasons, the Giants have failed to win on the West Coast. They have struggled with the time change. Last season, good example, they played Seattle, lost 27-13. The season before that, I don't have it up with me, but I know they also lost on the East Coast. It's been a struggle for them traveling that far, which is why I give it to the Raiders.
I see this as the game where the first game with the new head coach and the team goes out, and for some reason they look better than they have all year, and there's all this false hope that they're going to turn it around, and they don't. They go back to their losing ways. I can't even see what's going on now, but I think it was the Giants. Yeah, so I'm going to go with the Raiders on this one. They win this one, and then they lose a whole bunch more after it, which we've already kind of picked a lot of those. But I think we're going to the coin flip, which is bad news for you, Brandon, because I chose. So we got the never has lost against the never has won.
It's really a
in the coin
Brandon
flip.
versus Matthew battle right now.
That's
for
what
personal.
this is.
All right, so what is heads?
Heads is
is
Raiders.
Vegas. Okay.
Matthew, because it's going to be the one you win. Oh, wait.
Nope. I am losing. So Giants, we have winning this one. So that's a loss for the Raiders again. Will they go? You guys have them already winning in week 4. I'm like, will they go unwinning? The opposite of undefeated. Okay, but we've got the next 3, I think it is. Where are we at? I've lost
10,
my
11,
place.
12, 13.
So 10 against the Jets, they lose. 11 against the Dolphins, they lose. 12 against Kansas City, they lose. A bye week. Do they come back and win one against the Vikings, or do the Vikings still beat them in week 14?
I think they beat the Vikings.
I think the Vikings win.
I think the Vikings win.
All right,
Caleb?
coin toss or Vikings?
I'm going to go with the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings will win. I think Justin Jefferson is going to go. He's going to trample all over them.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that does not go to a coin flip. That's week 14, but week 15 against the Chargers.
Got the Chargers.
You guys love your splits. You already have them.
You got the splits. Raiders won the first time. I think the Chargers won the second time.
Okay, so that's a loss in 15. 16 is a loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. 17 is a win against the Colts we had in there. So for you guys, this is their second win. In my mind, this might be their first win of the season. And then game 18.
Oh, it was a win, against the Broncos.
Win against the Broncos. So we have them going 3-14, the complete opposite of the Kansas City Chiefs.
The worst team in the AFC.
Yeah. I personally think it could be 2 wins, but we'll see. We'll see. Chargers. Chargers, we know they have Justin Herbert, and we know that they've Eckler.
They have an offense. They have a great offense. We'll just put it that way. They got Herbert, Eckler, Keenan Allen. They just drafted Quentin Johnston,
Mike Williams,
Gerald Everett, and
they have the top center in the league with Corey Linsley.
Maybe
4 first-team All-Pros.
Corey Linsley, Rashawn Slater, Foster Sarrell, and then a couple guards I don't know, but they'll probably play all right. But they have a top offense, and the problem that they've had the last couple of years, is exactly what Caleb said last time we were talking about them is, do they choke, or will they choke, or do they choke come week down here? And it kind of seems like they don't. But defensive wise, they still have a great defensive line. They got Khalil Mack and Bosa on the edges. You got Gerard Clark, who they think they just drafted. They still got Spass and Joseph Day, which will probably play nose tackle in my opinion. Linebacker wise, I mean, these guys are kind of edges, Mack and Bosa. So let's just say their defense line. Linebacker wise, they still got Kenneth Murray and Eric Kendricks, who they just signed in the offseason. Kendricks, I know Brandon knows about him. He's played pretty well in Minnesota for the last 9 years. Yeah,
he's very good playing off-ball linebacker. That's what you need.
Can't really say much about their outside linebackers besides Bosa and Mack, but they'll probably be playing edge, so they might be playing there. So we'll just say they have a really good defense, a really good front seven at the best. And then defensive or secondary, they just signed J.C. Jackson last year to a massive contract. It didn't work out well for them. Maybe he turns around this year. I know he was battling a couple of injuries last year, so maybe he turns around.
Derwin James is a top safety in the league. Asante Samuel proved himself last year. So if J.C. Jackson turns things around, you got a safety over the top, a great safety over the top, and then you got a 1-2 punch at cornerback where you only have to worry about the slot receiver. And Tywan Mullen, I don't remember when they drafted him. Tywan Mullen was undrafted, never mind. I was thinking of somebody else. But so you got a pretty good secondary in these 4 guys here. 3 guys, Samuel, Jackson, and Derwin. You just got to have all these other guys step up. And they also have a defensive-minded head coach with Brandon
Staley. Yeah.
All that being said, I think when we look at what's already populated, we probably don't have them winning a ton of games. But let's go ahead and look at those games. And we'll start with the first game. They lose to the Miami Dolphins. Then they win against the Tennessee Titans, which I think we all agree Tennessee Titans are going to be one of those Raider-esque teams this year.
In week 3,
week
I got
3.
them winning against the
I do too.
Minnesota Vikings.
I would agree with that.
Okay, Caleb agrees, but you have any insight on this? I mean, we all agree they win.
Yeah, they'll be able to jam up Justin Jefferson, which he's their key guy on offense.
Mm-hmm.
They also have TJ Hawkinson, but I mean their defense has proven itself to be able to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Then according to you all, go ahead.
And I think without a really, really good quarterback, I mean, making good decisions, I also think that that's also going to be a downside to the Vikings offense and Kirk Cousins.
Okay. And then, so according to you guys, in week 4, they're going to lose to the Raiders. I still don't agree with that, but that's what we chose. Week 5, they've got a super early bye week, which is not great for them.
I hate it.
It's really bad. 5, and when you got 17 games in the season, that's going to be a long stretch at the end.
Look, this might be bad. This might be bad, but I've never seen anything worse. 1 second, let me find it.
While he's finding that, we're going to go ahead and talk about Cowboys versus Chargers. Cowboys, we haven't talked much about yet. We haven't seen a lot of their games come up.
I actually think these two teams are fairly comparable. If I'm looking at it, Justin Herbert, huge arm. Dak Prescott, huge arm. Yep. Both of them can run. Both of them make accurate targets. Both of them make stupid decisions. I think the two quarterbacks are comparable. Something that Cowboys have never really faulted from is a bad offensive line. They've always had a solid core of people right there going for them. And the Chargers also have that. The Mike McCarthy offense have just a bunch of stud receivers, and one of them's going to catch the ball. I saw that for many, many, many years in some of the glory days of Green Bay. And then both defenses are actually not half bad. They're pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think if we're talking about teams that are almost exactly the same, it's the Chargers and the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And I could argue for a tie here.
We did that once.
We did it once. There's always 2 or 3 that happen in the average season. I could see that happening in this game. But I think Monday night at home, the Chargers will win.
I'm going to, as I usually do, disagree with Brandon, and I'm going to say the Cowboys come in and win this one. I'm just going to leave it right there.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Yes, thank you, Josh.
And I'm actually going to put my opinion in there and say that, like you said, these teams are so equal in every aspect of the game, secondary, front seven, whatever, that this game comes down to the special teams. And I know Brandon doesn't like that because he has experienced very poor special teams play recently, except this past year. Ugh. But I think this comes down to a game-winning field goal, and I just think the Chargers win it based off the fact that I know they don't have Brett Maher anymore. You know, the guy that missed 5 extra points in the wild card game and somehow still won. But they just signed a new kicker. His name is Tristan Vizcaino, and I don't even know who that is. I just think it's more of an unproven kicker where these guys, the Chargers have Hopkins and Cameron Dicker, who have been in these situations. You know, they've made game-winning field goals. They have legs, and I just think the Chargers, they have what it takes to find.
Josh picks the Chargers along with Brandon. What do you think, Caleb?
I think, along with everything you guys just said, I think it's going to come down to the two quarterbacks and which one makes more sloppy mistakes. And I think Dak makes more sloppy mistakes. And I think the Chargers are going to win.
Okay. Overrode. Chargers win week 6. We have them losing week 7 to the Kansas City Chiefs, and then week 8.
Before we get into week 8, I found what I was talking about. So you guys are talking about an early bye or whatever, and I thought I was going to the Commanders 2021 season, and I thought we had a bye like right before these games happened, but I said I've never seen anything worse. I've never seen a thing worse than this 5-game stretch right here. Cowboys, Eagles, Giants. The 5 or 6 division games. And remember, this is when I don't know if we were in the division, we were definitely in the wild card race, if not the divisional, chance for the winning the division at 6-6 in week 13. And then all these games happen. We lose to the Cowboys, and then the Eagles. I remember they rescheduled this game or something because of COVID. Taylor Heineke couldn't play. And then we lost to the Cowboys on Sunday night very badly. I was there with my friends, and I was humiliated. The Eagles, I can't remember what happened in the game, but we won against the Giants. But this 5-game stretch right here is just terrible for any team to play, and I wish it never happens for any team again because I've single-handedly experienced watching that.
So having a week 5 bye threw Josh into this bad past memory for the Washington Commanders.
It gave me PTSD for everything that happened.
All
so
right.
back to the Bears.
Back to the Bears in
back
week
to the Bears.
10. No, week 8.
Yeah, I think the Bears lose.
Yeah, Chargers win.
Agreed.
I think Caleb's going to agree with us, but does he have any input, any reason why? Just they win. All right.
All right. Week 9, we have them losing, right, against the Jets and the Aaron Rodgers experiment. Week 10 against the Lions. What do we got here? I know everybody likes the Lions.
I got the Lions winning off a bye week.
Caleb, what about you?
I'm going to say the Lions are going to win this one.
All right. Oh, that's tough because I don't know. I'm going to try to not look at the record, but I believe it's all right. They're in borderline playoff contention right now. And the Lions, not the Lions, the Chargers are sorry. And this is our final 2 games you predict right here, actually. These 2 games. So it could come down to these. Ooh, a minute.
I'll come down to that in terms of us predicting them. Not the rest of the season.
We've predicted already the rest of the season. So, yeah.
I think they split these 2 NFC North games. I think the Chargers win.
All right, then I got each home team winning if they're splitting.
Forget about the split. I'm saying the Lions win here coming off the bye week as well.
So, Brandon, you switch. I mean, it's 2-2, right?
Well, I think they lose these next 2.
Of course, because they're going undefeated.
You think? Wait, you think the Lions win in 10?
Lions win, yeah.
Okay, so we got the Lions winning in 10, week 10, week 11 against Green Bay.
I think
the Chargers.
You've already clicked it. You really believe the Chargers?
No, I don't. I'm just hovering over it because that's what I picked.
Okay. It looked like you had clicked it already. I'm guessing Brandon does not agree with that.
No. Mm-hmm. So it's down to you and Caleb, and maybe a coin toss to finish off this live stream.
Week 11, I'm going with Green Bay. What?
All right. Caleb?
I think this is where the Chargers start to get a little tipsy and start going off. I think I'm going to go with Green Bay on this one.
All right. Good man.
So we have a loss in week 11. Yeah. Boy, we keep going up and down. I can't keep straight here. Week 11, we got Green Bay winning. Week 12, we have the Chargers already beating the Baltimore Ravens. Week 13, we have them beating New England. Week 14, we have them beating the Broncos. Week 15, we have them beating the Raiders. Week 16, we have them losing to the Buffalo Bills. 17, losing to the Broncos. This must be where the choke job comes in. But then in week 18, we have them spoiling the Kansas City Chiefs #1 overall, right?
Yes.
So
we didn't. Well, I didn't do it for the last 3 teams. I forgot to do it because, how can you not remember this guy, Adam Rank? I mean, he's easily forgettable. But the Chargers that he had out of the Adam Rank had the Chargers going 9-8. We also had them going 9-8.
Ooh.
The Chiefs, he had them going 13-4. We had them going 14-3. So, it could go either way. Raiders, he had 4-13. We had done 3. So Adam Rank actually is on board with us for every single team in this division.
There we go. So we've got Denver at 7-10, Kansas City at 14-3, winning the division. Raiders at 3-14, losing the division and possibly the whole AFC and maybe getting the #1 pick. We'll have to see. Chargers 9-8, right in the middle, kind of where they've been, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we've got for the AFC West. We took a long time on this one today because just such interesting teams. We'll have to see. But next week, we actually start with another interesting division because we're heading to the NFC. Actually, this is not next week. Next week, I will not be in town. So we're going to push this one off a week. But We're going to be starting with the NFC North, and we have some teams in the NFC North that we talk about a lot because Brandon and his Green Bay Packers are constantly playing the Bears and the Vikings and our beloved underdogs, the Lions. We're going to talk about all that next week. Hey, it was really great having Caleb with us today, talking about the AFC West. We hope you all join us again for a very exciting NFC North next time on the Football Pandemic. All right, and that heads it out for our live stream as well. I always forget to do that. Bye-bye.
Bye.